to Adventures in Glass with Doug. That's me. We've had a lot of interest in hanging glass sculptures. I've gotten a lot of views on the previous video that I did, so I thought it would be time to revisit this, give you a few tips and some inspiration, show you some of the things that I've done. So to get started, let me give you a couple examples of what I've done and tell you what I might have done differently. When you're trying to create a hanging glass sculpture, you really, in my design method, you really only need three things. You need some kind of a base or a lower part, a globe, something of that sort. You need, I like to have some sort of a plate across the top, because very often you've got obviously an opening at the top that you want to close off. And then you can either just put a hook on the top or something in between. Now in this case, let's have a look at this one. This was a rather nice vase that had a lot of interesting colors in it. It was triangular in nature, so I had to kind of think this through in terms of what it would work with. I put a small plate on top, and then I believe this big ice cube was a candle votive, and then my hook. And in this case, I put a glass marble on the bottom just for some flair. I think originally that had been painted with what I did, that is, painted it with some of my alcohol ink, probably in the magenta range, because there's some bits of magenta in this. Unfortunately, the alcohol inks outside just tend to fade and disappear. If I wanted to, I could take this back in the workshop and apply some more ink to that and jazz it up. This is another piece that incorporates a margarita glass that you would recognize, a plate, and then a small little vase. Now I think, and then of course the hanger on top. All of these are connected by silicone, which I've said before I prefer to use. Many of you ask on these hanging pieces if that will hold up, and you're worried that, oh my gosh, if I hang this it's going to fall off. Well, I had the same fear when I started too, and so I kind of limited the weight of what I built. But I have not had any problem. Most of these, I just cleaned them up today because they've been hanging in the yard and looking pretty weathered. But they've held up for probably 5 or 6 years with most of these without any problem. And I think if I had this to do over again, I would put a larger piece below this. This, proportionally for me, doesn't work as well as it should, but it's still very colorful. Another piece I have that has done well for me, held its colors, and again, I think all of these blues were truly tinted, glass that was that color rather than something that had like a paint or a film applied to it. In this case, we used, I think, a ring keeper on the bottom, and on the top I put another votive. If you have some of these squatty votives, they will sometimes just give a little extra interest to the top. I think in this one it looks like I used my blue and green alcohol inks to just get inside that to get a little interest and color. It may have faded out a little bit. And again, hooks, the only hook I have managed to find that works is what they call a plant hanger that will also have a molly on the end of it, a lot more hardware than you need. But I did put a link in my description for the hooks. You may be able to find them elsewhere more inexpensively, but they're the only one that I found where you have a flat base that you can glue to your glass and then have a good sturdy hook to hang from. And they all look kind of old-fashioned, but you can get them in bronze, you can get them in black, white, or you can just spray paint them whatever color you wanted. I've got a little tip about that too for you in a moment. This is another one that very simply had, I think, a small candle votive plate, a Pyrex dish, and I think that was a candle holder that I have upside down that was particularly interesting with the extra glass on it. And that marble held up the blue colors that I did with the alcohol inks a little bit better. And this piece, I think I've shown you this before. It's very dramatic. I'm not entirely sure. I guess that the largest part of it, I think, was a candle holder base. It's rather a strange piece. But the candy dish on top, for me, really set it off. And I've since learned from one of our subscribers that this is something that was called carnival glass, that was produced in the 20s and 30s to kind of mimic an inexpensive Tiffany style glass, to have lots of different colors with it. The reason the finish has all of those colors is they added that in the glassmaking process with some minerals and I think salts to give it that extra sheen and color. And I have noticed now that I've been looking for them, a number of pieces in candy dish style that have that sort of iridescent shine to them. I don't know if it comes through on the camera. I did not look. Some people say, well, to find out if it was authentic, there should be a mark on the base. I didn't look before I constructed this, so I don't know that for sure. But I'll keep my eye out for that. There were some reproductions done again in the 50s. And again, the reason it was called carnival glass was it was often given out at state fairs and carnivals as a prize for some of the skills. It was suggested that it would lose its sheen in the sun, that the UV would destroy that. I've tried to research that and have not found anything that said one way or the other. This has actually been out in the sun, semi-shade, but sun, probably 4 years, and it doesn't look like it diminished anything on it, so I'll keep an eye on that. And this has, again, a marble that I think I probably had some red color on with the alcohol inks that has since lost that. Okay, that's a kind of a long discussion of some pieces that I've done and some ideas for you. These all are in the blues range, but it all really just depends on what you find and the kind of inspiration it gives you. And many times you'll have some pieces that'll just sit there for a while until you manage to find just the right extra pieces to put it together. I had so many of these that I had to build a structure for it out by my patio to hang everything. I took some weathered wood and created kind of a wall, I guess you would say, of about 4 shelves, thin, maybe 4-inch wide shelves, just enough that I could put hooks on and hang them. And it's been sort of this wall of hanging glass that I think really looks cool. But they would also work very well in a screened-in porch, or a porch that you have that gets some sunlight during the day. Be kind of cool. A portico, anything else. It doesn't necessarily have to be something major. And I like to cluster a couple of them at different heights with some chain to make it work. With all that said, let's make a couple of pieces today and see what we can come up with. Well, I've got some choices here. I've got some pieces that one way or another are going to work out for something. I think I can get 2 hanging pieces out of this. So let's see what we've got. Previously I showed you this chipped water glass that I had. I've got several nice blue plates that I picked up, and a wine glass that's nice and blue. All of these are blue glass. So I think we're going to do probably that as a piece. And then I love the shape of this particular vase. We'll take that, cover that with a plate, and this rather unusual but kind of heavy martini glass that is frosted, but it has some clear polka dots in it, or smooth polka dots, and that looks like that would fit nicely on this etched plate, or cut glass plate. And that, I think, has a nice shape, nice lines to it. So I think we'll put that together. I've been kind of back and forth about whether a blue plate or a clear plate on this one, but I think I've got plenty of the blue plates, so I'd like to use it with the blue. So for starters, those will be the two pieces that we'll be doing today. So what shall we do first? I think our best bet would be to put a bead of silicone on the rim of this cup, making sure that we allow for that chip, and then flip the plate on top of that. And I think we'll be able to also then put some silicone on this rim and put that together, and then set that aside to dry before we put the hook on it. Okay. I've got that centered up pretty good. I think the glass base and top rim are probably not exactly parallel, which is why I'm getting just a little bit of tippy. Okay, I think we can set that one aside and quickly work on the other one. I'm happy with that, and I am. Before we got started, I cleaned all of the glass inside and out to make sure it was nice and clean. I'm picky about that, and the main reason that once you have these sealed, you can't go back and clean the inside of them, and sometimes you'll get moisture inside, so best to start with them clean and dry. While we let those dry, let me just show you with the hooks, one of the little tricks I have. I've noticed that when I hang some of these pieces on the crook of the hook, they tend not to hang vertically. So I have filed on many of these, I'll file a little notch a little further out, that once the weight of the piece is hanging on that, it seems to hang more vertically. And I use what's often called a rat tail file Simply file out a little notch there, and that on the hanger just seems to help these hang straight or vertical. While we're talking about that, let's go ahead and put the hook on this one. I think we can manage that. Actually, I'm about out of hooks. I'm gonna have to order some more. You want a solid amount of silicone on this so that when you put it on, it does stay put. And usually these pieces are concave anyway, so you have to fill that gap anyway. Okay, I'm gonna have to go track down another hanger for the other one, which is sitting over there. Well, I wanted to share with you that earlier this morning I baked 2 loaves of sourdough, and if you haven't checked out my bread videos, you really should. And if you're at all interested in trying your hand at baking some bread, I've made it pretty easy for you. This sourdough is the sourdough I've been growing, but also I added a little bit of rye to this and some flax seeds in here. So this did a really nice job for me. It's great sandwich bread, makes wonderful toast. Again, if you haven't taken the time to look at some of my bread videos, why not? It's kind of fun. Give it a try. Guess what? Okay, I found another hook, white one. I've gone ahead and I put a notch in it. So we're going to get that one set. It's good. And just for fun, we're going to do one more hanger. I've got this small vase, another blue plate. Somebody fill up my margarita glass for me, please. We're going to go ahead and do the margarita glass on top. So let's see how much of this we can do right now. There we have 3 new blue pieces for our hanging glass sculptures. Need a hook on the last one, but they're ready to go.